Hey guys, what's up? It's JB Illusion, and since it's Dawn of Justice season, Batman v Supes, I am going to talk to you guys about, comic book heroes, well, in general, but I'm mostly going to be focusing on Batman and Superman and why I think that they're the relevant cultural icons that they are. I really think that superheroes represent more than someone just being super awesome and running around punching and kicking bad guys in the face and saving damsels in distress. I think they're really a way of commentating not only on our culture but on the human condition. I really think that they represent those things. We could go and talk about, oh, I don't know, Captain America. America. You see, Captain America is a hero. World War II got the super soldier strength serum. Anybody, could do it. A strong man only grows so much, but a weak man can grow far more. I'm sorry, I can't quote it verbatim, but you get the idea. He was an icon that represented a lot of people's feelings and emotions during World War II and just about American soldiers in general. And then, there was the big freeze. He wakes up, in relevant times. And I love how Marvel has really taken him and used him to reflect on, I guess you could say, either society now or our culture now with the Civil War arc. Captain America, has served the government for longer than, well, the majority of the people in the government have, run things in the government. But when they came out with the new law, the Superhero Registration Act, he was like, "No, this is wrong. This is not justice. This isn't the American way. This isn't cool. How could you think about doing this?" And then they were like, "You're Captain America. You should follow what we say because it's the rules." And Captain America said, "No." He went revolutionary on them and said, I'm against this." And we had the great Civil War arc where he and Tony Stark like hated each other, and oh my god, it was so amazing. I can't wait for the next Marvel movie that's going to be, I think, very very based around the Civil War. And oh my god, I can't wait to see Bucky and Cap beat Iron Man into the ground. Speaking of Iron Man, he's also kind of a cultural thing. Technology is awesome. Rich guy with, well, rich people problems. He's rich. His life is amazing. He's a great guy, but he also is an alcoholic. His father almost never talked to him ever, and he kind of shows that. You know what I mean? In his actions mentally, and I guess you could say sometimes physically. The Hulk. He the Hulk essentially is an allegory for our own inner demon. Like you heard people talk about, oh, well, sometimes I get angry, or sometimes maybe I get drunk and I do stupid things, or sometimes I see like red and I'm sorry, officer, I just hit the guy. That's the Hulk. The Hulk is really a representation of all of us having those inner demons, having those inner monsters, and fighting to control them. And more often than not, well, losing to the rage, losing to your addiction, and then just turning into a monster. You talk about Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, all that, but yeah, it's kind of the same thing with the Hulk. Now, Superman and Batman. What could be so culturally relevant about them? What could be so like relevant to the human condition? Well, let's go with Batman first because I think everyone could well understand that a little bit better. And now I'll get to Superman because a lot of people I think really kind of get Superman like not misunderstood, that they really just don't understand why he's kind of awesome. So let's go with Batman. Na 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 Batman. This guy, very very rich, very very awesome. Looks like he has a good life, a good mother, a good father. He's really living the dream until his mother and father were murdered in, well, cold blood in front of him. That's that's really hard. And Batman's entire kind of being is, well, this happened to me, so when I grow up, I'm going to stop it. And we see the lengths, both mentally and physically, that he is willing to go through to achieve that. Strength of will, willpower is a huge thing with Batman. But we also need to think about his rogues gallery when we talk about Batman, because they're probably the biggest focus on the mental aspects of the human condition. All right, if you don't believe me, let's talk about Scarecrow. Scarecrow sucks. Scarecrow is basically a guy who created a poison gas. Well, it's not really poison, a toxin, I believe is what's referred to. And you inhale it and you see your greatest fears. Like the idea that as Batman's going through what he's doing, he inhales some of this gas, he's in a morgue, and he hears, talk from one of the actual body bags. So he goes to it, he walks slowly, grabs the zipper and opens it up, and he sees his father. And then his father's yelling at him, screaming at him, telling him that it was his fault, and then uses his arms to grab Batman's throat and throw him up against the wall and yell at him and tell him that it was all his fault. And to have, like, Bruce just go through that. Our phobias, our fears, it's something that's very big in day-to-day life. I can tell you I have a ton of phobias. There are some streets I won't drive on just because I'm so afraid of getting into a car accident, for instance. There's just a ton of things. And to see Batman not only have his phobias put in front of his face, to have his fears basically come to life, wailing and screaming and kicking at him, and having him go against them, having him have the mental fortitude to push back and say, "No, I will not lose to you," and just conquering those fears. It's amazing. You know that? It really is. It's inspirational to see Batman get like images of his past, to see what he sees over and over again. I'm sure he's had nightmares of the situation in Crime Alley for the majority of his life. But to conquer that fear, it's so important for all of us to do that, to recognize our phobias and to try to gain some type of power over them so they don't control us is very relevant to humanity as a whole. All of us have to deal with it, and at one time or another, sadly, I think a lot of us have failed to conquer our fears. I know I have. Now, there's also a couple other interesting people that are a part of Batman I'm going to touch on maybe super quick. Maybe you don't know. Killer Croc. Killer Croc is actually, you know, a weird kid. I don't know if he's considered a metahuman, but he had a very weird skin disease. His skin started growing like weird scales. His teeth were really, really sharp. And the neighborhood kids, as you can imagine, were not nice to him. In fact, the woman who was raising him was also not nice to him. A little bit of mental damage for that. People came at him for so long about his deformity that it started to really, grate him. But he just kept going. He just kept having people, dump on him constantly. He kept taking all that in. And eventually, in his adult life, he found himself, looking like a gator man, wrestling alligators in this crazy sideshow as they promoted him as a freak. And eventually, one day he just snapped. You know what I mean? He just snapped and said, well, if you're billing me as a monster and you treat me like a monster, then I'm going to become that monster. I'm sure a lot of people have been bullied. Don't become that monster. Don't be an aggressor. It's it's one of those very, very interesting Batman like backstories that not many people talk about. But I really think Killer Croc is something to at least the human condition for me, because I'm a victim of bullying. I have been, well, not really anymore, but very, very long time ago. Well, not that long ago. I was bullied very, very badly. And, watching Killer Croc, I came to that realization a little while ago. And I'm happy to say, never became like an aggressive person, never struck back in retaliation. Maybe verbally. Maybe I could take that back. But I never, went full croc and bit somebody's face off. Yeah, never bit somebody's face off. Now, Calendar Girl, Paige. So, most people don't know who Calendar Girl is. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you like this. She was a supermodel. She was the best supermodel in the world. Beauty, grace, elegant, all that. No, 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 like Kim K. Slightly. Well, I'm not saying Kim K is trashy, but well, you've seen the Instagram, haven't you? Yeah. Hey, but at some point in time, her face became scarred. And when I say scar, I mean a piece of glass got shattered, and some of the shards went flying, and one of them cut her just below her eye. It might not have been her eye, but it cut her on the face. And she freaked out. She, even after the doctors, fixed her up, they told her that she's fine. She still sees that scar. And she sees it and she feels hideous. She feels as though she's ugly. She's unworthy. And at some point in time, she started to actually accuse the people who told her, no, 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 Paige, you look fine. Your spread in this magazine looks beautiful. It's great. And she physically and verbally lashed out at them, saying that no, no, I'm not beautiful. I'm ugly. I'm horrendous. Stop lying to me. What are you doing? And it got to the point where she started to want revenge against the industry that was, you know, responsible for not only her deformity, but for just views of beauty in general for women. And she's pretty awesome. And she is also probably the first person that I've ever heard of. Reminder, this is the Batman the Animated Series. First person I've ever heard of to have body issues like that. Like later on when I went to middle school and high school, I found out about body dysmorphic issues and how someone could be 90 pounds and still look in the mirror and see how fat they were. You know what I mean? That's actually something that's very, very heavy for a kids cartoon. When you go back and you think about it, it's super heavy and super dark, but she's another one of Batman's villains that reflects a mental disease, an issue that could be overcome, that should be overcome, and hopefully Batman will help her. You always hope. But a lot of Batman's rogues gallery represents very, very scary things that can happen to our psyches, or things that are just in the back of our mind that, if we think about them enough, could become very, very big issues. Yeah, so Batman is really, really big on the dark sides of the human mind. You know what I mean? It's the negative things, but it's also overcoming them, as Batman does every single week. He overcomes the fear toxin. He stops the beautiful Calendar Girl. He stops, I believe his name is Firefly, this guy who's a pyromaniac who's obsessed. Well, pyromania is a real thing. Google it. And, he braves the fires that this man has put up, the fires that he loves to see, the smell that he loves to smell, the sounds of, well, sadly, people burning that he loves to hear. And you see Batman go into this, not only stop him, but brave the fires to save other people. You know? Batman really is about overcoming all of that fear, all of that darkness. And his rogues gallery represents a lot of that darkness. You know? There's also... There is also Clayface. Since I'm being all long-winded, I'll talk about Clayface for a second. Clayface started off as an actor in the Batman the Animated Series. Good lord, that was a mouthful. And he played all these different parts. He was, an old man. He was this dude. He was doing voiceover work over here, and he had to use this putty. He used this crazy putty to rearrange, to apply makeup to his face, to look younger, to look older, to give this guy a southern feeling, to give this guy a rich, posh, British feeling. And eventually it got to the point where he was acting so many people that he kind of lost himself. And you could maybe reflect that on Batman, considering he lives two lives. Which one is the real Bruce Wayne? Or does Bruce Wayne not even exist anymore? He's just Batman 100% of the time. Is it a mask that he puts on? And if so, which mask is it? Is it Bruce Wayne, the billionaire playboy? Or is it Batman? Or maybe even better, what is the real Bruce Wayne? You know what I mean? It's stuff like that that actually was way too over my head when I was a kid. I just wanted to see like Clayface get beat up really, really bad. But it makes you think. Now, let's talk about the Man of Steel, Superman. Oh no, that's X-Men. What am I thinking? I can't hum the Superman intro. It's been far too long since I've watched the series. I should probably rewatch it. So, what's so cool about Superman? He's super strong. He can apparently stop bullets with his eye. He can stop everything. What's good about him? So, here's my question. If you had Superman's powers, what would you do? Well, I'd be a fun, upstanding citizen. No. Shut up. No, you wouldn't. Because if I had super hearing, I would be sitting outside of Wall Street with my computer opened up and my stocks all out, and I'd be paying attention to everything. Google just had a massive sale. Stocks, don't tell anyone. Oh, really? What was that? And when is that going to go down? Awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, I both know my audience may or may not use X-ray vision for its not intended purpose, or for its intended purpose, depending on who you talk to. Superman is something that maybe we don't praise as much as he should be praised, or at least his ideals aren't as relevant as they are now. See, here's the thing about Superman. Superman is completely about restraint. He works at the Daily Bugle, and he's a reporter. Let me tell you something. If I had Superman's powers, I would be all TMZ all the time. I would have had everything. You know what I mean? I would have been able to see, to hear everything. I would instigate rap beefs just for the fun of it. Really, I heard that this person said this. I would be that guy who told Meek Mills about Drake's lyrics for Warpaint. I'd be that dude. I would. But no, Clark isn't. Every once in a while, he might listen into somebody's story just so he could help himself out at his job. But he doesn't make a habit out of it. It's the restraint to have great power and use it responsibly. Yeah, I just threw in a little bit of Spider-Man here. But that's Superman. It's the restraint to be able to do something bad. You know what I mean? Like let's ask a what WWSMD. What would Superman do? Okay, let's say some dude came up onto you. You know he's a lot smaller than you. He's very very weak, but he's like one of those little annoying dogs. And he's constantly barking at you like, fight me, fight me. And you could lay him out. He hits you, insults you some more. Maybe, you know, keeps going. You could lay this fool out. One hit. One hit. You could knock him down, make him the laughing stock of the neighborhood or town or whatever. But would you? I've been in this situation before. Didn't do it. But then later on, I found out that that person got hit enough in their life. They actually had a very, very bad life. It's the restraint that Superman shows pretty much on a day-to-day basis that I think is one of his big factors. He is like all-American country boy, country farm boy, but he's also this guy who could be making moves. Let's be real. He could own LexCorp if he wanted to. He could basically destroy Lex Luthor just by hanging out, like I was saying before, hanging outside the LexCorp building, listening in on Lex Luthor's private calls and finding out what, like, dirty business he's up to, and, shutting him down. And then he could use whatever ill-gotten gains he got from using his powers to buy out the company. But of course he wouldn't, because that's not him. He only will use his power, well, sometimes, like I told you before, just in case his job needs it, but he'll use it to help other people who can't readily defend themselves. It's a really, really complex thing being the person with too much power. It's something that I don't think a lot of people can really deal with, because it's always like, hey, that person's rich, they can't have any problems because, well, I would love to have that $20 billion. But then again, you find out later that basically their entire life is spent around backstabbing two-faced people who actually steal a lot of that money. Superman is all about the restraint, the control to not only, I guess you could say, use your powers, use your strength, use your money, use your resources at an appropriate time where you need to help somebody out, where you could save someone, and not to just go and blow it all everywhere or exercise your power just because you can do so. Hey, you heard that guy may or may not have said unnice, not nice things about you, and you have the ability to fire them. Do you fire them just to be, like, hey, can't have, excuse me, people talking about me? Or, do you, take a step back, take a look at the person, and see where they're coming from, and maybe, well, oh, you know what, we did have that awkward moment at whatchamacallit. Maybe he could have not liked me from that. Superman does. Sometimes he might get a little angry, dark side, cough, cough. But I really like both of these characters. Maybe I like Batman more just because I like the idea of the dark side of the human brain and just conquering it on a daily basis. But then you have to also give Superman props for not, well, conquering the planet. Because let's face it, if the wrong person had Superman's powers, they would be king of the world right now. Like for real. I would at least be king of the stock market. Anyhow, I'm JB Illusion. Thank you guys for watching this. Please, please like, and if you have anything to say about this conversation, hit me up in the comments below. Anyhow, peace out, guys. Have a nice day.